tell you what, I don't know where the time goes, but just like that, we're already in a Wednesday. And you hear the music. Time now for your Berkshire Hathaway bi-weekly podcast. And your realty expert, John Brodeen, is back in the house with us today. John, how are you, man?
Yes, good. It's always fun to be in the studio with you guys.
Yeah, we like it when you're here.
Yes.
What's new in your world? Anything exciting?
Not too much going on. Same old thing. Market's hot. We're busy. Working like crazy.
Yeah.
So,
Would you rather be too busy than not busy at all?
too busy.
Yeah.
I start losing sleep when I'm not busy at all.
Oh, I would imagine. I would imagine you do. Market's hot.
Yes.
It's funny because we had Adam in here last week, and he was talking about how houses are going so fast now. And that my son just bought a new house in Fargo. They bought it without even looking at it.
Wow.
They didn't even have a showing.
Yeah.
He said it's that hard because they're just eating them up.
Yep.
As soon as they're for sale. I mean, when he sold his, he had, I think, 8 showings scheduled for that day. The first one offered him what they wanted. Second one offered him what they wanted and said they'd pay all closing, everything cash.
Okay.
And so, yeah, they're going fast.
It's a combination of interest rates rose a little bit, but they're still very, very low. All the buyers want to get into something now. Very, very low inventory on the market. Only exception is the low price range, like under 140.
Yep.
And I feel there's a lot of inventory for some reason in that price range, and fewer of those homes are selling right now. It could just be because people can afford more with interest rates being as low as they are. Every other price range, even the luxury price range, is in a seller's market, which is a really rare thing for us to see. It's good though. And the other thing is building costs are super high. So if somebody, those people who are in that high price range, they usually kick around the idea of building a custom home versus buying a luxury home. And, it makes it even more attractive to buy when you've got the cost of lumber and building materials at what it's at right now. It's crazy.
I'm looking at roofing my house and my garage, and my garage needs to be resheeted again. And that's going to take a couple of $1,000 job and probably double it because plywood is like $40 a sheet right now. It's ridiculous.
I had a contractor telling me, it's like some of that stuff is double what it was before.
Yeah. There's so many steps involved with buying a house, and that's why you need a realty expert like yourself, John. But let's talk a little bit about closing costs, because there's probably a few things people don't know.
Yeah, so this is one of the things that's the most confusing to both buyers and sellers, so it's a good thing for us to cover.
Okay.
So the sellers have their closing costs. If you sell your home for $260,000, it's not just you sell it for $260,000. If you have a loan, the loan gets paid off, and you get the rest. There's so when you're a seller, you have the sellers don't pay for the same items as buyers pay for at closing.
Okay.
The seller is going to pay for both sides of the real estate commission. The seller is going to pay for their portion of the prorated taxes. Thing to remember is if you've escrowed for them, which most people do, you're going to get a refund from your escrow account a few weeks after closing. But it will come out of your proceeds, even though you will be reimbursed for them later if you have the escrow account. You're going to have your portion of the title fees as the seller that you have to pay for. And usually if you have a loan on the house, usually you have to pay for the odd days interest. So if you haven't, like, for example, made your... If we're closing in April and you haven't made your April mortgage payment yet, you own the house for 15 days of April, you're gonna have to pay like 15 days of interest.
Sure,
it's usually a smaller amount, but so you're gonna have those fees. So if a seller talks to me and wants to know, if I tell them what their house is worth, what I'll also do is draw up a net sheet for them to show them what they're gonna actually get a check for when the thing closes. So those are the seller's closing costs. Then the buyers are going to have a completely different set of closing costs. So something for buyers to know if there's in the early stages, you don't just have to come to closing with your down payment. You have to come to closing with more cash than just your down payment. The reason for that is you're going to have your lender origination fee. So it's not free to do all the underwriting and all the process of getting your mortgage. That's a lot of work. This is how the lender gets paid upfront. So usually your lender origination fee is going to be around 1%, and they usually have some administrative fees. So that's how your lender gets paid for getting you your mortgage. So you're going to pay that at closing. You're going to pay your portion of the title fees, state recording fees, etc., charged by the title company and the state county, I guess. And everything.
Yep.
Then you're going to have your first year of homeowners insurance. So you pay that up front. You fund your escrow account.
Yep.
And then you pay your homeowners insurance, and then you begin funding your escrow account with all of your payments. Then you're also going to have your prorated property taxes for that first year of owning the home. So you pay all that up front. So this total is probably going to be around 3% of your purchase price.
Okay.
So if you're putting 5% down, it's not just the 5% you got to come to closing with. You've got to come with the 5% down plus your closing costs, and that's going to make up your what's called your total cash to close. And then this is what throws everyone off. So you've got the seller's closing costs that they're going to be paying for. You've got the buyer's closing costs. And then we start talking about closing cost assistance.
Okay.
And this is also, some people, you might hear it called like seller paid closing costs. That can get confusing because it's not just the closing costs that the seller pays. These are funds that the seller takes out of their proceeds at closing and gives back to the buyer to help that buyer have less cash to close.
Okay.
So, and it's something that we're going to negotiate at the time of the offer. So let's say house is listed for $200,000. It's pretty normal if your offer is strong enough to ask for maybe $2,000 to $4,000 in seller paid closing costs. Now, if you're in a multiple offer situation and you want to come in at full asking price, if the listing price is $200,000 and you come in at $200,000 with $4,000 in closing costs, now it's not really a full price offer anymore.
Okay.
So you do have to change your offering price accordingly if you do want to make it attractive for the seller, especially in this market. So like what somebody would do in that scenario if they want to make it a full price offer to the seller is come in at $204 with $4,000 in closing costs.
Okay. That reminds me a story. Some people I know bought a house years ago. $220,000, I think they paid for it. And they said, okay, we'll take the house for $220,000. But we want 20 back because it needs some work.
Yeah.
And the seller agreed. So he got the check for $225,000 or whatever it was. And as soon as he did, he wrote them a check back for $20,000, and so they could get their stuff done, and everybody was happy.
Yeah. And that's a good point you bring up. Depends on the loan type you're doing because each loan type has a different maximum amount of allowable seller paid closing costs. So, if I'm using a typical type of loan, like a 5% down conventional loan, I couldn't offer you $250,000 on a $200,000 home with you giving me $50,000 back at closing.
Right.
Usually the limits, like I'd have to look back and look at exactly what they are, but like I think a VA loan is 4%. I think a USDA and FHA loan is 6%. Conventional loan, I believe, is 3%, depending on how much you put down. I think if you put down more than 10% down, you can get up to 6% back in closing cost assistance. In this market, rarely do we max those out because keep in mind, the house still has to appraise at the total purchase price. So, on that $200,000 house, if the maximum allowable seller paid closing costs are 6%, that's $12,000. And if you're bumping the purchase price up to $212,000 and then you're getting $12,000 back in closing cost assistance, it still has to appraise at $212,000. And now you're starting to inflate that purchase price by quite a bit. And you're counting on it appraising by that much. If it appraises at $203,000, chances are that seller is not going to still give you that $12,000.
Right.
They're probably, you can almost count that they're not.
So if you think about it on an average, thinking then the closing costs are about 5%, but plan on a few more
3
percentage points.
So around 3.
Okay, and then plan on a few, and it would probably be around 5 total. Is that what you're?
So it depends on if you're talking about closing costs. The closing cost portion is going to be around 3.
Okay.
And if you're putting 5% down, then your total cash to close is probably going to be about 8% of that purchase price.
Okay.
And so, like I said, it is kind of uncommon for people to max out those allowable seller paid closing costs in this market. Maybe in a more of a buyer's market, you could, when the buyers have more leverage, you could get away with doing that more. But yeah, it's.
Now, do these numbers, do they vary depending on lender, agent, whoever's doing the, the inspection and all that stuff? Do they vary a little bit, or are they pretty much close to the same?
They're going to be pretty much close to the same.
Okay.
The exceptions are going to be if somebody is using like a commercial loan, they're going to have completely different guidelines for like an investment property, multifamily, commercial property. If you're putting like more than 20% down, that's when you're going to have more flexibility and have more allowable seller paid closing costs. The majority of buyers are using like 3 to 5% down conventional loans. FHA loans are still common, but with our situation with as low as interest rates are right now, this is getting into the weeds a little bit, but I'm sure this is valuable to the listeners. So on an FHA loan, you have private mortgage insurance. Any home you buy and you put less than 20% down, you're going to have private mortgage insurance, which is usually around 1%, 0.5% to 1% of the purchase price per year. And you get billed that monthly, and it's on top of it's added and put into your monthly payment. Once you reach 20% equity, and if you have a conventional loan that you put 3 or 5% or 10% down on, once you reach 20% equity in 8 years on a 30-year loan or whatever it's going to be, that private mortgage insurance automatically falls off.
Oh, okay.
Also, and you can request it to be taken off early. Let's say you buy a house for $200,000 and you put a brand new kitchen in it, brand new bathrooms, and now all of a sudden that house is worth $250,000, and your loan amount is still $190,000 or whatever. Now you've built that equity for yourself. So now you have 20% equity. So all you would need is for it to be appraised or get a broker's price opinion through your lender to get that mortgage insurance taken off. This is on conventional loans. And you can see why this is valuable, because you don't have to refinance to get rid of that. So let's just say in 8 years, you've got enough equity now to get rid of your private mortgage insurance. And you don't have to refinance, and rates are now at 4%, and you locked in a rate at 2.9%. Whereas with an FHA loan, that mortgage insurance stays with the home for the life of the loan, and you would have to refinance to get rid of your mortgage insurance. So if you're planning on living in the home long term, and rates are super low right now, FHA might not be your best option for that reason. Of course, I don't mean to play lender here, so your lender is going to be the expert, not me.
All of these things that I learned from you realty experts, it just makes me think, because every once in a while in the paper or on social media, you'll see somebody's got a house for sale, by owner. And I just sit and think to myself, man, do you know what you're getting yourself into? Because after being with you guys for so long now, there's a lot of things that you guys do, and that's why they call you a realty expert. Yeah,
even the most knowledgeable for sale by owner out there, maybe they've sold 5 houses by themselves through their lifetimes. A real estate agent like me or any other full-time real estate agent has sold 5 houses in a month before.
Right.
And we're the most up to date on what the latest rules and regulations and market standards are. So having us on your side and involved in the transaction can amount to, thousands of dollars when you think of the mistakes that we can help people avoid making.
Yeah. So if you're thinking about buying a house, and it could be next month, it could be 3 months, it could be 6 months or a year from now, they should probably get a hold of you like now.
Yes. Yep. You always mention this, and I always mention it. The earlier you get in touch with your realtor, the more value you get out of it. So my number is 701-213-5428. If people have questions about the buying process or want to get in touch with me, text me or call me.
Perfect. We'll see you on Friday.
Yes. Sounds good, John.
How about that? There you go, your realty expert, John Brodeen with Berkshire Hathaway. And by the way, you know what? If you're going to purchase a house from John, maybe you want to change it up a little bit. Maybe you want a bigger garage, or maybe you want that kitchen redone. Get a hold of Executive Properties. They can get it done, doing all types of commercial and residential work, and they do it all. And if they can't, they're going to refer you to somebody that can. When these guys come in and do a job, they do it all, but you need to get booked now because once spring comes, they're going to be busy. Executive Properties, 701-330-1273, or go to executiveproperties.org. There you go. That is part one of our Berkshire Hathaway bi-weekly podcast. We'll have John Brodeen back in the studio again on Wednesday. Till then, everybody, have yourself a fantastic week.